Evening. Did you miss me? I'm back because I know my co-host Demi roast me for not being here, but I'm finally back. You're watching your favorite nighttime television show, Youth Come Alive, and you're seeing us on either Facebook, YouTube, Channel 98, or on Twitch. We invite you, we encourage you, we're begging you to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We love communicating with you in the comment section, and it adds to the atmosphere of our chat this evening. We're talking about today bullying and peer pressure, and as you can see, there's quite few of us on set. So I'll have each person introduce themselves. Starting on the far right. Aislinn Murillo.
I am Miss Chelsea Esquiliano.
Thank you all for being here. How do you all feel right now? You feeling a little pressure? No, 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 no. Okay, I'm just making sure that you know we don't vibe with peer pressure here at ATN, especially not on Youth Come Alive. So we're talking about bullying and peer pressure, and I'm going right to the teacher right beside me because it's something that we find commonly amongst children, especially at the primary school level. So, Madam Teacher, can you tell us what's your experience been like, if any, on bullying and peer pressure?
Okay, so I'm a standard one teacher and I have first-hand experience of bullying. I see it every day happening. And I'm not going to lie, I think this generation of children that is coming up nowadays, they're much more ruthless as I can remember from back then. And I don't mean to say that there's no hope for our future children, but I have seen bullying happen to the point where it's detrimental to their lives, and it really puts how can I say it really affects people in a lot of different ways, right? Not just emotionally, it affects people mentally. So bullying is a very big issue that we should target. And you can see it all over the internet. I think America makes a big deal
Yes.
about bullying. So it is something that really affects everyone, right? Not just emotionally.
Right, right. You know, I never, like you said, these generation of children are very blessed. Let me tell you, primary school children are possibly the worst at bullying. One thing children will do, they won't make you look bad. They will humble you immediately. They take no breaks to humble you. Be like, why you look so? You want to dig? Why your face so round? Why you so short? Because some of our feet start touching the ground. We're not going to talk about that. I'm joking, I'm joking, I'm joking. Lena, could you share some insight, your experience with bullying?
Um, that I experienced, or
Well, not that you've seen, that you've seen. Oh, yeah.
well, like Uncle said, I think when you're growing up, when you're younger, you experience a lot of bullying. I think back then the effect that it had on mental health wasn't as prevalent. Like people didn't talk about it as much.
Right.
But now that it's being addressed, now there's more worried about bullying. Um, I don't think bullying looks the same way at that level. It looks a little bit different. It's more covert than when you're in primary school and they're just blatant designated. I think what you see more at the college level is like cyberbullying. And I think that's just because now social media is big.
Right.
So you're seeing more instances of cyberbullying and people just, getting online and saying whatever and they feel like they can say without having any repercussions for it. So I think when it comes to that aspect, I'm hoping that we can see more things that take into account. When it comes to physical bullying, there are things that are there that can be done. You can get like protection orders, cyberbullying. That's just a space that we don't really have anything to,
Right. and you mentioned mental health. And that's something it makes you remember because bullying is not only for children, it's for big people too. I don't know if you remember that teacher from that one specific school, we won't call any names, that had that mental breakdown on Facebook and everyone's side. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And that is a form of bullying, being pressured to the point that your efforts of fighting back are useless. And it takes a toll on your mental health. So it's something you have to guard, something you have to be on the lookout for.
And go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to rephrase on what Jalen was saying, I think most of the time, sometimes when you do hear bullying, people just sometimes think that is something that's only done between children or
Yeah.
kids. That's something that kids do, or they're just playing around. That's just them. They're just
Children will be
kids.
children.
Children will be children. Just left there alone and just they have fun and they joke around. But I think we need to reach to a state of living where we need to stop it the minute we see it, because then it tends to just grow with them. And then it tends to be on adults as well. So it's not only kids getting bullied, it's also adults. And
Yeah.
sometimes you might feel like your mind's strong, but it's not always.
Statistics shows that 1 out of every 5 children get bullied, and that's 20%. And one out of every 20 commit suicide because of bullying. Now I guess we look at bullying as just a simple teasing, and when it's just a simple teasing, we don't understand how the detriment of what it can cause to somebody else. And so I was watching a video of this girl being bullied, and she was at the point where usually when you're being bullied and you have it causes a lot of mental problem. So the ones that actually result in committing suicide, they are going to be the ones that would create these videos and these tapes of themselves crying out, telling people that they're tired of this life or tired of, And so bullying is just, we look at it as a surface problem, but it's deeper because it's the cause of a lot of depression, anxiety. Man, why did they go straight through my brain? But it's anxiety, depression. You got personality disorder that comes from it. You have a lot of breakdowns that these children or young people faces. And usually when you have been bullied, usually you grow and you become a bully. It's not majority of the time, but some of the time that's what happened. But some of the people that has been bullied, they try to do better because they become advocates for bullies. But they become bullied after being bullied. And usually they look for people that are inferior to them to bully.
I just have a question. So what do you guys think? How far is too far when it comes to being or bullying? Because like I explained, sometimes we don't see the nature of things as it is at probably that present time. Like I said, when you see children teasing each other, oh, they're just children. Sometimes we as adults do it the same way. You see a friend and that's your very good friend. Why your head so picky? Why you don't warm your head? If your foot is not properly probably manicured or cleaned well, how your foot looks so crusty? You understand? So and you feel like it's okay because that's your friend.
Yeah.
So how far is too far when it comes to bullying? Like, is that acceptable? Because in reality, you're still bullying the person.
Right.
I think it goes back to the friendship dynamic because if your friend is fully honest with you, they'll make you know at some point in time when, this is the line and you may even cross the line, you mash it up. And true, that's how friendship should be. So and there are friendships that are built on aggressive or derogatory terms to each other, like you stupid, what happened to you? And they mean it in a genuine way, like you made a fool, and they mean that you're funny. But like I said, it depends on the friendship situation. You know when too far is too far. Because what happened, hypothetically, be like, Kayla, so you just not plan to finish grow, you don't see your foot and reach the ground. Immediately after that, Kayla stops sit down on a chair, she try to find a lower chair. And I don't pay attention, I'm like, oh, foot finally touched the ground now, but that's her reaction to being slighted in the wrong way, like, oh, okay, you crossed a line that you shouldn't have just now.
I believe that we shouldn't start in the beginning
Fair.
because as we see, Jesus is our examples, right? Is our example, right? So I didn't hear of any mention in the Bible where he said to his friend anything of such with such hard terms. But you can see what bullying did to the prophet. I think it was Elisha, when the children came and they were laughing at him for his bald head, and then a bear came and right, eat them and tore them apart. So we see where laughing is not no, it's no laughing matter.
It's really not funny.
Because people are really hurt, like really hurt by being bullied.
I think you have to take into account like how I get what you're saying, but sometimes you really just want to help your friend and they can do something that you're saying that's meant to be something helpful, as like you were giving the example of like your manicure foot or whatever, but you're trying to say like as a friend I want you to take better care of yourself, but they're viewing it as being bullied. But I think you have to take into account things like the approach, or even like where you're telling that is the intent really helpful. If you're telling me in front of a crowd of people,
Right.
like should I pull you aside and tell you something like that? If the intent is to help, then you have to look at all those things. But if the intent isn't, if you know it's something that they can't fix, for example, a short person, there's no way they can get taller, you know?
Yeah.
So there's really no intent there if you're making fun of their height. So probably that's not something you really want to say. But if it's something that can help them, then you want to look at making sure that you're telling them in the right space, or making sure that they're accepting it the right way, because you might have a good heart, but it doesn't mean that they're open to accepting that thing that
Right.
they're not fixing.
So it's not how you say it. It's not what you say. It's how you say it.
That makes me remember there are some T's that my first Ella at church mentioned. I don't remember how many of them there are, but it's tact, how you approach, the tone you have, the time, and the turf. I think it's 4 T's. The turf meaning the grounds you're playing on. Don't say something that's technically embarrassing in front of a crowd of people. Because one thing people will laugh. Because if I'm in the crowd, I will laugh. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm going to laugh. So those 4 T's, time, tact, tone, and turf. Very key things to remember there.
And I just wanted to say, going back to what you said about friendship dynamic, it's very, how can I say, it's weird, because I deal with kids, and when it comes to kids being friends, they almost have this on and off personality. Like one day you're my friend, the next day you're not. So it's difficult to try to see through the eyes of these kids and how they take these things like offense. How do they take these teasings, right? So what is the line between, this is an actual offense, I feel offended, between just, oh, that's a joke, it's okay, right? And I think kids are, they're a lot more playful than us, because as kids, they like to see everything in a more playful light.
Right.
As a joke.
Yeah, and us as adults, as we grow up, we begin to believe that not everything is a game. So we begin to take everything seriously. So if someone does come and joke around with us, sometimes we won't take it as a joke, because maybe there is something going on, right? And that's another thing with kids. They don't look that deeply into those things that they're being teased about, right? They don't look that deeply into it. But we as adults, we do, right? Because we've already went through the stage of growth and puberty, and we definitely realize when people tell us about our certain flaws. Right. So we begin to step back and evaluate ourselves to realize if this is true or not.
I just want to add to that. I believe that you are able to figure out that somebody is really being mean to you based on from at home, because some people, because being a bully is a learned behavior.
It is.
You learn it, and you learn it from the people that you see be in the mirror. And so sometimes your parents are bullies to people outside, and so when they are talking to people and bullying these people, they are basically laughing, and then you get the joke and you think that that is okay, and so then you would go to your to your peers and be like, okay, my mom cracked this joke, so let me crack this joke as well. And so they would crack the joke and then think it's okay, not knowing that it hurt somebody else, feeling that came from a sensitive family, and then they feel this deep sense of hurt because what that person did is a joke to their family, but not a joke to yours.
I was just about to ask that. Where does bullying start from? Because you go to preschool and you go to primary school when you really start. Who started it? Where does it come from? And then that's a very good explanation. It starts from in the home, and we talked about that in our very first season here of the culture that our families raise us in. It affects our personality when we go out into life, because if we're from an abrasive home and you do something, your parents are like, maybe you're stupid. We have to do that for, a blasted idiot. You go to school and then somebody drops your pencil off your desk. Blasted idiot, we have to do that for. Mimicking your parents, and then you see the person catch and the feelings by the insult, you're like, oh, okay, I see how I could run this playground now. Let's see if I throw a few words around. And then you become public enemy number one, and you're the bully of the class. So it does play a role what your family culture is like in how you act in society.
I think another thing too, you see your family members or other persons doing it, but it's also something that you can see online. Yes, there's a lot of they have YouTube videos where children are being bullied and they say, oh, not to bully, because I have a little cousin. She likes to watch those little videos where they always have the children being bullied or things are happening, but that is just one side of the story that they're seeing, because we can see everywhere we go. For example, if you sit on pan news, like when they have this thing that pan
House meeting.
Oh yes. You see how their politics start to one another when they're yeah, it's something that you see everywhere. It's not something that you can avoid. And imagine people that are so high up. Those people have bachelors and PhDs, and they bully one another. So it's not something that you honestly can avoid, because let's say you're not seeing it in your house, but you sit down and watch news with your ma, your pan. Next day you go to school, go tell one of your friends, if you get the simple pills, I couldn't times 9 times 2. Why you forget your simple pills, right? So it's something that we see. It's a culture that is everywhere. So it's not something that we can really avoid, or even when it comes to people in power, because for example, it's just like this story of Esther when Mordecai was always bullying him. He was always bullying Mordecai, like telling him, do this and do that because I am this and I am that, and you have to do this and you have to do that. So there are a lot of stories that we can see that people in power tends to like to bully as well.
They abuse their power.
But there's a misconception that if I am the bully, I am cool. And that's how it looks in the school system. That's how it looks at the school level. If I bully, I am cool, because then the crowd gets to laugh and the crowd gets to see me take advantage of somebody else. But you ever see the twist when the bully get bullied? And that's called oh, I could never say this word when my mouth wants to say it's a kind of therapy that you do the same thing that was done to you, and you get tamed. Because when you see a bully get the same dose of his medicine, you see after that they have a change of hearts. I don't like to be the bad bearer of news, but of course we need to come to the break. But during the break, we have some.
Hi, good morning, my friend. How are you today?
Good morning. I am good. I'm enjoying the atmosphere here at the Belize Adventist College.
All right. What is your name?
My name is Alisa Dominguez.
Okay, Alisa, if you don't mind, could I kindly ask you a quick question? How would you define bullying? And then I also want you to share with me how is it that perhaps peer pressure is linked to bullying. If you see any linkage, any at all, could you respond to that question?
Yes, I do see a linkage between both of them. And for me, bullying is when you physically or verbally take advantage of someone who is inferior to you. And peer pressure is when you are influenced by others, mainly your friends. And I do see that both of them are linked, because maybe you are not the one who starts to bully others, but little by little, hanging out with people who do bully, you will be influenced to bully as well.
All right, I like that a lot. Thank you very much, Alisa. Thank you for your time, and continue to enjoy the wonderful atmosphere
Thank you.
at BSC. All right. Hey, Rebecca.
Oh, hi, sir.
Can I see you for a moment, please?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
I was meaning to ask you a quick question.
Okay.
Could you define for me bullying?
Bullying. Well, for me, bullying is when a person or a group of people harm another individual, maybe by the way they look, the way they act, either verbally or physically.
Okay, and do you believe that bullying is linked in any way or the other to peer pressure?
In my opinion, I believe yes, because maybe sometimes you don't really want to harm another person, but just because you're with a group of people who tell you, go ahead, do it, and if you don't do it, maybe they'll tell you you're a chicken or you're not capable of doing you. To look good, you will go ahead and bully that person, even though it's not you, right? You don't want to do it, but you end up doing, and you end up being influenced by other people, so you're basically fall under peer pressure.
Okay, well, I thank you very much for sharing. Enjoy your day, my friend.
Same to you, sir.
Hi, good day, my friend. What is your name?
My name is Alice Jessica.
Okay, if you don't mind, I would like to ask you a very quick question. How would you define bullying?
Bullying to me is taking advantage of someone, whether verbally, physically, or over the internet.
Over the internet. Wow, that's interesting. And what about peer pressure? Do you believe bullying is linked to peer pressure in any way?
Oh, yes. Peer pressure is the influence that you receive from your friends to do something. Your friends can influence you or pressure you to take advantage of someone else.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing with us today. Good morning, Jamal.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Can I take a few moments of your time? I would just like to ask a quick question.
Sure.
how would you define bullying?
Bullying. Well, my definition of bullying is when we tend to pick on somebody younger than us due to their physical background or their physical abilities to do things or their looks.
Okay, and is it only physical?
No, we can abuse them mentally as well. So say like if the bullying is to like another level, there are a stage of bullying where people tend to put their parents into it or where they come from, etc.
So verbal abuse is also there.
Verbal abuse is also.
And what about peer pressure? Do you believe that is linked to bullying?
Peer pressure is linked to bullying due to the fact that our friends influence us to make some choices which is out of the ordinary so that we can bully others. So like if my friend tells me to go and punch somebody, which is bullying, that means that I'll go and punch the person because I don't want to look bad to my friends. I want to please my friends. So peer pressure, my definition of peer pressure is to do something because we do not want to be the odd sheep or the black sheep, the one odd one out.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I'll let you get back to your work.
Okay, thank you too.
Sabbath School members, do you know of someone who is an orphan? November 19th, 2022 is Orphans Day in all the Seventh-day Adventist churches around the world. The orphans in your congregation awaits your love and special ministry to them. Sabbath School Council, begin planning for Orphans Day. It's a ministry of compassion. Orphans will remember your ministry of compassion. November the 19th, 2022, Inter-American Division celebrates with the rest of the world Orphans Day.
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine today.
And what's your name?
My name is Ivy.
Ivy. Nice to meet you, Ivy. So you're a student here at Belize Adventist College. Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
How would you define bullying?
The way I define bullying is simply when a group of people or someone in specific pinpoints a person and allows them to feel bad by telling them verbally or physically doing them something that would not be nice.
All right, I like that also. Then what about peer pressure? Do you believe that peer pressure is linked to bullying?
I believe so because if someone who is innocent gets along with people that are already used to bullying, he or she will eventually pick up that habit and will begin to do the same thing even though it's not their original character of doing. And that way the influence of peer pressure and bullying is the same to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing with us. I'll let you get back to your work now.
Break. We thank the students of BAC for being brave enough to speak out on such an important topic because it is a societal concern that everyone should be an advocate for. Before the break, we were talking about the experiences of being bullied and peer pressure and where it started from, and we're gonna continue right on that. I notice that there's no one in the comments. You think I don't see? I'll be looking for the comments throughout the rest of the show. Before we left, Kayla, I think?
It was
Aislinn had a point, and she remembered the word, guys. It was provocative
Therapy.
Therapy. Would you care to explain that again for us?
I'm not even going to try to say the word because every time my brain tries to say it, it slows down. But anyways, what happened in that? I'm going to give you an example. For example, you want your dog to stop pooping at a spot where he's pooping. What you're going to do is take the dog face and rub it in the poop.
Okay, I've done that.
Then the dog will know that they're not supposed to poop there. So
Right.
that is what that therapy does. That is what it does. it gives the hard
Taste your own medicine.
that right there.
Interesting. I never know that.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but it helps. Some people need it to help, because some people need those type of therapy to help them to get past some stuff.
One of my students actually had an experience like that, and I literally witnessed it because apparently the student came to me and they said, Miss, I don't like the way the students are making noises. I'm trying to do my work. But I quickly had to tell him, but just earlier this morning you were making noise and annoying them. So why do you do the things that you don't like? You know, and I don't mean to say it in this way, but it was instant karma for him. Because you cannot expect to do something to someone and then when they do it to you, you don't like it back, right? And we, as a teacher, I always teach this type of attitude when it comes to them, right? Don't do something to someone that you won't like it if they do it to you.
The Bible verse, right, Kayla?
Yeah. So going into the actual Bible verse that is taken from Matthew 7:12. Okay, Matthew 7. Yes, Matthew 7:12, which says, my apologies, guys. It said, all things therefore that you want men to do to you, you also must do to them. This is a fact, and it is what the law and the prophets mean. So simply, don't do what you don't want others to do to you.
Right. The golden rule, do unto
Golden
others
rule.
as you will have them do unto you. If you can't take it, not do it.
If you
Plain and
understand
straight.
Like, yeah, stay out of the kitchen.
Right.
But what if you're not the one doing it? What if you're the one seeing that it's being done? Then what do you do?
You have a voice. That's why you need to. Okay, I don't like when people stand on the sideline and watch people being bullied, especially if you could do something. And now the thing is, if I'm seeing you being bullied, I video it, which makes absolutely no sense. And then they post it on the internet, and then everybody start to cyberbully that person. So you double whammy. You know that's a double pressure and double stress on that person. How do you stand there and enjoy and laugh and giggle at somebody's demise? No, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I think the breakdown there is, like we mentioned, bullying started somewhere. And I think what we need to do is to do proper education on what bullying is, what it looks like, and how we can help in a situation like that. Because if you're sending this is funny because when I was at my friend's house, his daughter went to school, and this little boy took her snacks. And she went home and she told us, and her uncle was like, the next time they take your snacks, you punch them. Not saying it's the best example of how to resolve a bullying situation, but you're basically arming your child. Listen, if someone does this, that is not acceptable. You need to do something about it. And that's a part of proper education. If someone teases you, not tease them back. Don't tell the teacher, even though teachers sometimes don't do much. No offense to the teachers. Something real, because there's a lot going on in a classroom than just teasing. But there are things that you can educate children about on how to resolve a bullying situation.
I can attest to that because I could remember something occurring to me when I told this person to stop. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. And then the person did it one time too much, and I had to slap him.
Wow.
And if you're constantly telling somebody stop, and it's getting to a point where you cannot help yourself or do anything, and you've been telling somebody, help me, because this thing yesterday get out of hand, help me, I don't like it, and this, well, and nobody not do nothing. Well, I took it into my own hand the best way I could have, and then it stopped afterwards. And so that's why I said when the same thing happened to the bully stopped.
Right.
I mean, it's not the best thing to do, just hitting people like that. But you, at some point, you gotta stop. At some point, you have to know that you're being annoying to the next person.
And I think when it comes to teaching, the first thing we would do the minute it happens, we call them, we sit them down, and we talk to them. What you did was not really the right thing to do, right? And we give them all the reasons why this can affect people and why it hurts their feelings and what it does to them, what it does to other people, right? So I think children, you know, I don't know what to say, but
The children are one that are
next level, you would not believe. And I think my kids, I have already trained them in a way that whenever something happens, they come and tell me. No, I'm not going to lie. I have a lot of tattletales in my class. I do. So
well, it's best you have them saying rather than being sitting there.
Yeah, and quiet about it.
Yes, being hurt about something like that.
So then with that, what are ways in which we can, you know, assist or help with the bullying?
It's a very good question. I think Chelsea gave a very good example to it. If you're the parent of the child that's being bullied and the child comes home and tells you about it, I know of some parents who will be like, well, none of my picnic they are playing with. And then they show up at school big and bad. And extra energy for what? What does it solve then? Try to have a meeting with the parent of the other child. Listen, so clearly our children are not in the best of friendships right now, but they have to be at school together. So let's work on establishing some sort of understanding between each other. Maybe we just avoid each other, or maybe we learn to live with each other. I think that's one way you can attack the situation.
You think there comes a point where the bullies or the victim knows when to say no, like when it is enough? Because do you, okay, so the bully, say the bully is bullying, do you think they ever come to a realization or a epiphany to say, okay, I need to stop this because it makes no sense? Or does the victim comes to a point where that says enough is enough?
I think in a perfect situation, the bully realizes, hey, you know what? That's not cool. Let's stop this. But more often than not, I think the victim is one who has to lash out or speak up, or someone stands in their defense for the other person to realize, you know what? Maybe I was wrong here. But I think it's very rare for a bully to have the random epiphany, hey, I should stop being mean to people. There has to be a breaking point when tensions are high and no one can solve it, that it just spills out and they're like, okay, wow, step back.
And this is why education is so important, because they need to learn these things. Even us as adults, sometimes we need to learn when enough is enough, joking, and when we're actually being rude to someone, right? So I think it all depends on someone's knowledge of how much they know about the topic. Because kids, you know, they will not do something if they know it's not wrong, right? So these kids can be, sometimes, right? Right? If these kids know that bullying is not something good to do, there's always going to be a thought in the back of their head that, you know, this isn't right. I shouldn't be doing this. This is mean. I don't want it to happen to me. So let me stop, right? So this is why, as a teacher, we always teach these things to these kids, especially bullying, right?
It makes me remember that Bible verse when children are being dedicated, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. So if we instill these good values that bullying is wrong, you should not tolerate it, you should not be a bully. Being mean is not a personality trait, point blank. Then that's something like you said, it will linger in their mind. Hey, you know what, I probably shouldn't do that. My mom will tell me about this. My daddy saying beat me if you ever had a bully. So it does play a key role because at the impressionable state of children being in primary school, they learn a lot. So if you're right at the forefront giving them the better education on how to live, it will outweigh the possibilities of them being a bully, I think.
I think they should have it as a part of their everyday conversations in primary school, especially primary schools, because I know in high school they do have it set in their curriculum to teach it for a certain amount of weeks. But I think that every day, the first thing after you telling a Bible story or doing the devotion, I think the first thing that should comes after that is, okay, remember, and reinforcement. Because reinforcement helps children to remember that that's not good.
Yeah, I mean, in COVID, kids always had to practice to wash their hands every time they eat a meal, before and after they use the bathroom. And as soon as they come in through the school gate, they go right to the sink to wash their hands. It's the same thing that they should be able to remember when it comes to bullying. It has to be a habit that they need to realize that this is not something that will help other people. This affects people in many ways. So it has to be a habit for them to remember that this is not a good trait, right?
Yeah, I want to ask a question because I mentioned the teacher earlier. Bullying in the workplace.
It's the worst.
It is the worst because then stakes are different. Then you're obligated to fulfill your roles as an effective employee because you have to get paid.
Your job is on the line.
Your job is on the line. So how then do you manage a workplace where you are attacked in different angles, like, oh, if you don't give me overtime for this meeting, I might take that out of your pay. How do you attack things like that in your workplace? How do you have that conversation with your boss? Because it's a very uncomfortable conversation. Trust me, I know.
Usually there's a line. Or a chain of command that you have to go through to say, you know, I'm being bullied.
It is abuse.
Right.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Right. But there's usually, you know, if it's not your supervisor that's doing it, usually you want to document it.
Right.
You don't want it to be just like out there and it's happening, but there's no proof that it's happening. So you want to document it, but then you also want to share that with the appropriate parties. So like, for example, I think that teacher, she had documents, like she had her things that showed, hey, I tried to do this and I tried to go through the proper procedures. So document it, share it with your immediate supervisor, and if they're not taking it into account, then you go through the chain of command, usually involving people like HR and that kind of thing. But I think, like in the instance of the teacher, that was a different scenario because that she's fighting against a whole institution.
Yeah.
So that means in that case using like external methods. But I think there's strength in numbers. So if you know that that's something that's not just affecting you, but maybe affecting other coworkers as well, like go together as a team and go through the proper line and see how it flows. Each company or each workplace has their own route or line of command that you have to go through when something comes up. So you have to figure out what your work has that you have to do. But if you know it's happening to multiple people, go with numbers, because that's when you're more likely to be heard if there's an established pattern that's happening all the time,
Right.
So then we've talked about school, we've talked about work. So what then when it comes to bullying in the church?
Wow.
Yikes. It's the silence for
And,
me.
and the thing is, people always say you don't go to church for people, you go to church, for God because you're worshiping God. Then you do have people that are in the church that tends to like to bully you as well because you can't do something or because you don't, look a certain way or, we do have people that bully people in the church. So what do you guys say to that now?
I have a question. What does bullying in the church look like? Maybe I think if we talk about that, then we can figure out ways to fix it. But what does it look like? Because as Christians, we're not supposed to be telling somebody, your hair looks bad or this
It doesn't
or that.
come like that.
But
It doesn't.
so what does it actually look like then?
I don't think
It's going to look like this.
Example. Authority.
Or that could work.
Who has power over who?
Right. And then that. But also we have the part where you sit in nominating committee and you drag the person down to the lowest point, putting all their sins out on the platform when their sins look as twice as more or more than the one they're dragging down. And then you get to hold no position because those people there in that committee just being a bunch of bullies.
But sometimes it doesn't mean that their sin is twice as much. Their sin might not even be out there in the open because their sin is inside a locked house, and your one is probably just a little bit peeking out through the door, or they feel like they hear things from the friend of the friend of the friend, so they feel like they know. So that is when they instantly start saying, well, oh, this person can't do that. This person can't do this. And then they start belittling you and you end up not holding a position in church. Right. So it's both ways the authority because you do have some people, well, I the pastor, so where I say go. And you can't come and feel like you could come run the church because of me run the church. And it goes with elders, it goes with deacons, it goes with, just everybody. So
that's exactly how it looks in the church.
And
slightly.
it's
and
sad.
there's more, but that's I will think that's the bigger ones at this point in time where you often see over and over.
I think another one too is when we feel like we are more spiritual than others in the sense that we have more knowledge of the Bible than others. Well, you can't teach Sabbath school because you can't quote your scriptures as good as I can. So try sit down because I know you don't read your Bible.
Hey, not try sit down.
So it's a lot of different things you might not see like it's blatantly there, like up in your face, like, oh, go wash your head because it kind of crossed it, like you explain. But there's subtle little things that we might not think it's bullying, but it actually is.
Yeah, I know that we have a lot more to say, and I'm beginning to feel like the people earlier, talking about it's Pastor Leslie Bevans giving the eyes because we're talking about when the pastor,
Hey.
No worry, friend, you just not be like that, right? Anyways, so we're coming down to our last couple minutes of this segment, and we have to give our last
final words.
Sadly. Sadly. But what I was going to say just now, I'm starting to feel like the people in the comment on previous shows when they were complaining about the show being a little bit too short, because there are some shows that do need that little extension. But let's start over here.
Final thoughts. So whenever I think about bullying, I don't know why this song pops in my head, but be careful little lips what you say, be careful little eyes what you see, that kind of thing. But like little lips and little eyes, like that part is usually pops in my head because it's like you always want to be careful what you're doing because God's always watching, and you're not doing it just because God's always watching, but you also want to take into account how the person that you're doing it to will feel. And then the other thing, let the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart, like that also pops into my head because you always want to make sure that what you're saying, what you're doing falls in line with what God wants for you. And for those people that are being bullied, just remember that God is always there. He will help you get through it.
Yeah.
There's this verse that my mom likes to say. I don't know where it come from. I don't remember, but it says to do justly, love mercy, and to walk humbly before God. And that is that's what we would that is what we need to do in order to not be a bully. We need to allow God to be a part of our hearts.
I don't remember where the Bible verse is actually taken from, but there is a Bible verse that says we should always look out for the welfare of others because that is what Jesus did. I think that if we see bullying happen, we should not, as Aislinn said during our break, we should not be out there recording it and then selling it off or putting it online for others to add extra bullying because it does lead to other things like suicide, depression, anxiety, the list goes on. So I think when we see these things happening, we should, put a stop to it and not add to it because and we can't say we won't be bullied because even Jesus was bullied in the Bible by a lot of people. So I think it's just something where we need to have knowledge about it and teach, or not. If we don't have kids, but it's not that we are supposed to not teach the kids that we don't have. If you see a child doing it, don't say ha ha, laugh about it and add to it. Just explain to the child that is not nice. You have to be kind because Jesus was kind and he was loving, and that is not something that we want to portray being mean. So it's just something to always be kind and share love.
I found the Bible verse just before you guys continue. Micah 6:8. It says, He had showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doeth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly and love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God.
Yeah, and I almost remember the Bible story of Noah, of when he was being made fun of when he was building the boat. And we use these Bible stories in education to help further the knowledge of bullying, right? So all of these stories are there to help the future generation, to help these kids to learn that bullying is something that really affects someone's life, and it can be detrimental to them if it gets to the point where they actually want to commit suicide, right? So we know as a teacher, we always use these stories to help children to understand and to learn more about what God wants us to be like, the characters he wants us to display, right? Fruits of the Spirit, right? And, yes, that's all.
What I would like to encourage our viewers and us sitting here is to be an advocate for bullying. Not because you weren't directly bullied or indirectly bullied. Maybe you have a child, a brother, sister who's been bullied. Doesn't mean that that's something you shouldn't venture into, because if you see it, turning a blind eye to it, just like in law, it's
like
technically accessory to crime if you witness crime happening. So if there's something that you can do that could change the circumstance, we encourage you to do that, because the victim alone, most often than not, can't really stand up for themselves. So if you can do something, don't hesitate. Do something about it.
We thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we just want to say, don't forget to watch us next week with another episode of Per Pressure. So see you guys next week, and good night.
As a non-profit organization The Adventist Television Network solely relies on your financial support. By partnering with us through a monthly donation, you will help us to continue to fulfill the mission in taking the gospel into all the world. For more information, please call 613-9351 or email us at atnfin@cbm.belizeunion.org. Thank you for your prayers and support of the ATN ministry, and together we may hasten the soon coming of our Lord Jesus Christ.